Oh boy, Star Wars is making headlines once again, though not necessarily in the most positive of manners. Tony Gilroy, the director for Andor, has directed and produced the second season of Andor. And in the second season, within the first 3 episodes that were released, this was about 5 days ago, about a week ago or something like that, it was shown that there was a quote unquote grape scene in the show. Now, before I go any further, I want you to know it's not actually a grape scene. When you see it in the show, there's a guy who leans in forcefully, flirtatiously towards a girl, takes her by the hand, she pushes him away, he pulls her back in, and then she and him fight. And then after that fight, she runs outside and screams, "He tried to grape me!" Now, before I go any further, I think it's important to note that Star Wars has dealt with these themes on a more nuanced level in history. Look no further than everything in Jabba the Hutt's palace, Jabba the Hutt's underground party ring, and Jabba the Hutt's sand barge. Everything there has sexual enslavement innuendos to it. So it's no surprise that there is potentially some sort of trafficking like that in Star Wars. We have other forms of it in the form of manual labor slavery. To assume that it doesn't happen elsewhere in the story within another context does not a legitimate argument make. Now, the problem people have with this is that this comes from an Imperial trooper who is under the leadership of the Empire. And who is the second in command of the Empire? Anakin Skywalker / Darth Vader. Do you think that Darth Vader would have had any acceptance towards this behavior at all? I personally don't. Now, getting into the statement made by the creator, let's go ahead and talk about that, because that's pretty insightful. I get one shot to tell everything I know, or can discover, or that I've learned about revolution, about battles, with as many incidents and as many colors as I can get in there, without having the story tip over, says Gilroy. I mean, let's be honest, man. The history of civilization, there's a huge arterial component of it that is grape. All of us who are here, we are all the product of grape. I mean, armies and power throughout history have committed grape. So to not touch on it in some way, it was just organic and felt right, coming about as a power trip for this guy. I'm really trying to make a path for Bix that would ultimately lead to clarity, but a difficult path to get back to clarity. So I understand where this guy's coming from. He's trying to inject a little bit more realism into the story. At the same time, we've had better representations of this and the horror of it in child novelizations of The Return of the Jedi and visual representations in the original trilogy. So we don't necessarily need to have someone running out and shouting out those words for any real genuine purpose. Now, I understand the desire to show the horrors of war, conflict, battle, oppression, all of that. And you could have done that wonderfully with just visual cues. You could have had the Imperial trooper walk inside of this area, see a woman who is fretful, fearful, and unfortunately seeing something bad happen, right? Now, we don't see any of the actual presentation, but we can have the Imperial trooper come back out, and after having come back out, you see an image of the woman lying there on the floor crying, So you don't have to as intentionally put it in there. I think a lot of people's problems with it was that, oh, this is a children's content. This is a piece of children's content, and you're going to put that into it. You don't have to worry about that, right? We've already gotten things that have shown more in the original trilogy than this scene did. The only real difference is that someone actually used the word. And really, if someone's biggest problem is that, it's a word. Get over it. It's a word. It doesn't mean anything unless you give it power, right? Anyways, I think this has gotten a little bit blown out of proportion. When I first heard about it, I was pretty shocked. Then when I actually started looking into it, doing some research about it, I realized this is not as big a deal as people are making it out to be. This scene is barely anything happens in it. Again, I already described it earlier in the video. Guy moves in, she pushes him away, it's over. That's it. Not as prevalent as what you would see in the original trilogy with Jabba the Hutt and Princess Leia and Slave Leia's outfit. Okay? Let's just be honest. There's a little bit more of that in there. Now, I will say I think it's cheap that this show seems to have taken notes from Rebel Moon, because that's what it looks like when you actually watch it. It's like, oh, this looks like Rebel Moon, but like a PG-13 version of it. And that was already a pretty bad story with Rebel Moon, so, not the best idea. Anyways, that's going to do it for this video. Hope you guys have a great day and a great rest of the week.